Good afternoon. This is Scott Churchson from the Sports Den, and welcome to Spangler Sports World Network on Zingo TV 249 and 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app on the app stores of iOS and Android. When you download, kindly make sure to rate and leave a comment. Both apps are free, so you definitely can't beat the price. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. And I hope you guys are having yourself a fantastic Tuesday out there. Like I said, my name is Scott Churchson. This is the Sports Den. Find us always on Twitter at SSW Sports Den. Find us on Facebook and Instagram as well on Spangler Sports World Sports Den. And alongside me right now is Mr. J.D. Walker, back again from after doing the NFL draft a couple months ago. How you doing, sir?
Thanks, Scott. I'm doing good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, good, man. And happy summer formally.
Yes. The weather today is not very summery.
Yeah, you know, it was funny. It's raining here 2 weeks ago when we did the show. I lost power halfway through. It just like that, bam. I saw that. Oh, dear God, that was embarrassing. Thankfully, they took care of, Obie and Rob took care of it, who, by the way, both are away on vacation right now. So at the moment, all by myself alongside yourself. Mr. Eduardo Harari might be popping on in a couple minutes, but we have a ton of stuff that we are going to be covering today. We're going to be talking some Formula One right now. We're going to be talking some NBA playoffs. Spider Tack and the new ruling for MLB is definitely in the mix on this. We're also going to be talking a little bit of Shut Up and Shout Out, and as well the obscure sport, which I am really excited about because I pulled this one out of the archives last night, and I'm just like, yeah, this is on the line of that taser thing that I showed you a while back. Remember that one? Taser ball?
Yeah, the taser one was that was one of my favorite ones that
this
keeping up with the show.
This is in the same vein of that. So I'm actually really kind of excited by that.
Nice.
But we're going to start things off. We're going to roll with a little Formula One, like I said. I wanted to start off, basically we had a couple weeks to catch up on here, Baku and also French Grand Prix. Although French Grand Prix had a little less drama to it, but Baku, Azerbaijan, I can never to this day pronounce that, had some wild stuff going on between Verstappen and also with Lewis Hamilton. So, Rebecca, if you're cool enough, if you can post either one of those two, I don't care which one, and then we're just going to break it down from there. If it ends up being the Verstappen one, just as a heads up, there we said, oh yes, this is the Verstappen one.
Okay, 5 laps to go, Max. 5 laps. Happy with your brake pedal. Traction metrics are sensible too. The tire.
He was so close at that point. It was something where the tire gave out at the very end. There was a massive issue going on because they couldn't actually dislodge the tire at all. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that because of the fact that it cost him. But obviously he rebounded. He won it at the French Grand Prix. So give me any thoughts, any ideas. Like I said, we're going to go into Lewis Hamilton. I got the video on that one too, but please.
Yeah, I mean, it's luck of the draw sometimes with that. I mean, especially the tire strategy does play a part in these races, especially on the street circuit. So whether they go with the medium or the hard tires, and that blew up in his face there in Verstappen's face. Right, he was able to make up the points at French Grand Prix a few weeks later.
Yeah. And in this particular case, after Baku, it was an issue. I mean, obviously, he held on. His team won anyway. But it was one of those things that he caught a huge break because he easily could have lost the top spot to Hamilton. And as it turns out, Hamilton had his own problems as well, right at the very end. Can we pull that one up?
Maybe not.
There we go. Stop. Coming to the very end of this point and going his own way is Hamilton. And he ends up losing right at the very end of this race, right at the tail end of. And he was cool with it for the most part. There was a button on the back of the steering wheel. It was inadvertently pressed. And as a result, it ended up costing him at the very least points, if not the win on this case. And it was a brutal loss for him in regards to that, especially with all the money that's being thrown around with this. Hamilton is arguably the face of Formula One right now. So it's been a messy situation on his regard. He had some comments just recently about the status of the sport and how difficult it now is to break in. And it was a tough loss for him. Like I said, he was right in the mix on that. He was number 2, I think, at that point, and ended up dropping out entirely, which ended up keeping Verstappen at the top, which allowed Verstappen, obviously, to, this past weekend, to be able to maintain his top spot. But if any quirk didn't happen with either one of those, obviously the standings would be totally different right now.
Oh yeah, that was it kind of evened out for both drivers in both races, but also with Red Bull greatly improving their equipment, challenge Mercedes on certain tracks. So it's no longer just the Hamilton show. So that kind of so while Hamilton is the face of the sport, getting some new blood in there is good to change things up a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Perez won, which is obviously a huge deal for them. It changed things up because, like you said, the entire way through, up until that point, it had always been Hamilton, Verstappen, one or the other the whole way through. And, you're looking at arguably number 1, number 2, depending on how you look at it either way. And it was nice to see a little bit of a shakeup there because it's just been the two of them for the most part all the way through, even this past weekend as well. So, again, in this case, it's still his teammate. They still ended up sort of in some ways still winning anyway. But it was a weird quirk and a weird coincidence. And fast forward now to French Grand Prix. Bottas had some really rough comments to say with regards to basically the fact that his team doesn't listen to him. When it came to the tire setup, he admitted and came out and quote, "I had no front tires left for the last 10 to 15 laps. So it was really just trying to get the car home. It was not fun in the last stint." And as a result, he's livid because of the fact that his team didn't listen to him and cost him a possible win as well.
Anytime the driver and his team are not on the same page, that's never good.
Yeah. This has to be a very tight-knit unit. I had a conversation with a guy who was a former Indy 500 pit crew guy. It's like, yeah, you are trained to be in such alignment, to be in such sync that if any small part comes off, with regards to the teamwork aspect of it, you're toast. And in this case, him calling them out on it, some people are saying it's going too far. Some people are saying it was not going far enough. And I think in this particular case, I'm with the camp that says that it wasn't probably far enough because any mistake on their part could kill him literally.
Yeah, it usually means somebody's getting fired this week.
Very possible, yeah. Like I mentioned before, with the amount of sheer money being thrown around with this, these are obviously big name Formula One teams here that they are not paying for second place. And it's real easy to get fired in an industry like this. Especially, go ahead.
Yeah, when you have that many millions being thrown around and, lives at stake and, seconds and, tenths of a second mean the difference in, people's livelihoods and safety, everybody needs to be on top of their game at all times. So if there's that kind of a disconnect, that needs to be addressed.
Agreed. Welcoming in Mr. Eduardo Harari, who's been good enough to pinch hit as well. Like I said, as Obie and Rob are both out right now. And he's a busy man as the phones are coming in too. How we doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Scott? Nice to finally be back.
I'm glad you're back, man. I had fun with you, 3-4 months ago, whatever that was, I forget. So thank you, Obie and Rob, for not being here. We could allow that to happen, so I appreciate that. Let's not make a habit of it, gentlemen, though. But as far as Formula One goes, it is becoming an increasingly popular sport. Even here in the U.S., it was still polling about 1 million people on ESPN, which is really good numbers for a sport that's frankly a little bit off the radar right now. As the ratings in the U.S. increase, that's going to obviously increase the amount of money that's involved, amount of money thrown around, and you are going to see, I think, a lot of changes going forward. Go ahead, please. I believe they're trying to set up a course and set up a race in Miami in the near future as well. And they have the Cup of the Americas in Texas set up already. So if they can add more American F1 races to the circuit, then that will bring a lot more money into the sport. Absolutely, yes.
And then I'd like to see the side-by-side ratings between the F1 races, Sunday Night Baseball, and Sister Wives.
Well, Sunday Night Baseball, I've covered those. They're really not great. I mean, Red Sox Yankees did pull, I think, 1.9 million views on Sunday Night Baseball, but it's still lost to like your 90 Day Fiance and like Home House Makeover. So going straight up against a show in the Learning Channel, it's still lost anyway. Red Sox Yankees notwithstanding. But as far as F1 goes, yeah, the U.S. needs another, or another track. I mean, we got Texas down there. That's not until I think October this year. So the U.S. surprisingly doesn't have one. But yeah, Miami will go a long way to assist that. You can find the space here in this country. If you can find the space in Monaco, you can find the space here.
I mean, they tried to put a race together in New Jersey, in Edgewater. And
Yeah.
if that of all places can be considered a possibility, then there's several different cities that you can try something. I mean, the weather would be better in a place like Miami, and if it rains, you just wait 20 minutes and then you're good to go again.
Well, that's maybe one of the advantages of California too, where it never rains.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you can find a strip somewhere, but yeah, like you said, if you can find it in Edgewater, just on the other side of the Hudson River and Manhattan, you can figure out a way to do it maybe on River Road there, but you can do it anywhere. So cool. All right. So we are about 12 minutes in at this point. Like I said, find us always on Twitter at SSW Sports Den. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Spanglish World Sports Den. The Instagram, especially because of the fact that the videos that I usually post up there are sports related, comedic. You saw a clip yesterday from Naked Gun previewing this today when it comes to what's going to be one of our next topics, which is going to be spider tack, but I'm going to get to that in a minute. Before we get to that, you did say you had a shout out and shut up, which I've got one of my own here. But if you want to start off, please be my guest, sir.
Okay, I will start out. My shout out is to Carl Nassib, the Raiders defensive end.
Oh, mine.
was the first active NFL player to come out while still playing. And in the process, he also donated $100,000 to the Trevor Project, a suicide prevention group for LGBTQ youth. So he's also putting his money towards a wonderful cause as well. And for the amount of courage to do that in professional football, the most macho of macho sports, that takes an incredible amount of courage.
Sure. In this case here also, I'll stay on that. My shut up actually is tied to this a little bit, because Joy Behar on The View got into a little bit of hot water this morning over this. When the announcement was made, she's like, it's 2021. Why should anyone care? And that's the sign of someone who doesn't actually follow sports, which in her credit, she says she might watch a football game once in a while. But Joy Behar took a lot of heat for that comment. So in this case, it falls into my shut up. But yeah, I was going to probably cover that one because of the fact that he came out while still in the league. Players have come out previously. Players have come out. Michael Sam, for example, came out prior. But there have been other players that came out after the fact. But nobody who already had 5 years in the league. So props and respect to that. And the charity part, like you said. So
yeah. And
please,
my shut up is for the NCAA. In the NCAA versus Alston case, the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 that the NCAA's rules limiting benefits related to education violate antitrust laws. With as political as everything is in the country these days, for the fact that the Supreme Court justices left, right, and center can agree 9-0 on anything is incredible. And they agreed with the fact that the NCAA is wrong. And this quote from a concurrent opinion from Justice Kavanaugh, it basically lays the groundwork for the entire amateurism model of college sports to be blown up in the near future. Nowhere else in America can businesses get away with agreeing not to pay their workers a fair market rate on the theory that their product is defined by not paying their workers a fair market rate. The NCAA is not above the law. The NCAA couches its arguments for not paying student athletes in innocuous labels, but the labels cannot disguise the reality that the NCAA's business model would be flatly illegal in almost any other industry in America. Those are some strong words and laid the groundwork for many, many future lawsuits, especially with the NIL, name, image, and likeness regulations coming out, which is right now a patchwork of a bunch of different state regulations, and there's no uniformity to it. There will be absolute chaos with it, and it will be kind of fun to watch because it is a system that needs to burn down.
Sure. Eduardo, you were about to say something? If not, that's okay.
Yeah, so I wanted to go back to the NFL,
please,
because I think that one of the things that, and yesterday, coincidentally, I was on Clubhouse, the new platform, and they were discussing the issue of coming out or not coming out. And particularly, my opinion is that the press has made so much fuss about someone coming out when it shouldn't be an issue any longer. We are in the 2020s, for crying out loud. I mean, it's ridiculous that we have to be discussing creed or race or sexual orientation in any form of sport, whether it is or not. It's the athlete's desire to follow what their passion, and it's sad. It's sad that the NFL still considers itself a little bubble where nothing can happen. And I just don't understand why the media is making such a fuss when there have been many cases. Well, yeah, the money might be, but
it generates ratings. It comes down to that, I think, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, personally, from a personal standpoint, I don't really care as an individual, but from a sports standpoint, it does become a bigger deal. And additionally, because of the fact that, like I said, it's newsworthy, but it's all things take time. And that's the funny thing about time itself, is that what is today's norm was yesterday's obscurity. And what's today's obscurity becomes tomorrow's norm. So this is just part of that gigantic path that we're on, where by the year 2030, people are like, I'm a gay Major League Baseball player. And people are like, so? Because like I said, it just takes time with these certain things. But that's where we are right now.
But we should be.
It needs to start somewhere, and Eduardo's right that it shouldn't be news, depending on your perspective. But the fact of the matter is, it is, and it is an inspiration for kids out there who might be trying to figure things out. And the more public figures that are out there, especially in professional sports, it gives. It gives kids who might be figuring out their sexual identity, it gives them something to look up to. Like there's somebody out there like them.
Sure.
But let's be real here. When the first woman coach in the NFL made it in, did you hear any fuss about it? I don't remember hearing news.
Which one are you talking about? You're not talking that the woman from the 49ers, are you?
No, the first woman was with the Giants in New York. I think it was the Giants, or it was either the Giants or in New England. But I don't remember hearing any fuss made about a woman coach.
Things happen in their own time. Like I said, I mean,
the women's league doesn't fuss either. Like women's sports are there, and they are underlooked by still in the media. And that's why we do what we do here at Spanglish. We try to bring alive those type of situations. But it's sad when sexual orientation takes a precedent over achievement. Having a woman in the NFL or having a woman in Major League Baseball in a top ranking position should take precedent over whether.
And I think it will in time. But, it's one of those things that I think certain things, like I said, have to happen at their own pace. If you look at, like, say, Manon Rhéaume, she played a few exhibition games with the Lightning, but it was a start, the first female referee in the NBA. I can't remember what her name was. Like I said, that's the kind of thing. Now, in my particular case,
on the Spurs staff, Becky Hammond on the Spurs staff, and Lisa Witherspoon works with the Pelicans as well.
Mm-hmm. Now for me personally, growing up, I was a pasty white, overweight ginger. I got like Kevin James or I got like Louis C.K. in my corner, and for whatever that's worth. I don't have that part of it, but I don't want to basically let someone else be like, you have somebody, like I said, Carl Nassif, you have somebody out there be like, okay, maybe a little bit. I think personally, I think the floodgates are going to start opening with this, where it's going to become much more mainstream, not just in football, but I think in a lot of the other sports as well, where you had that one groundbreaker and now everybody else will, start to basically work off of that a little bit. And it will become very mainstream, I think, very, very quickly. And probably within even like a year or so, it probably won't even be newsworthy anymore. My take on that. But yeah. Okay. So on that I got a little serious right there. But yeah, as far as, NASM goes, props to it. Like I said, you got to start somewhere. So kudos to that. I did have my shout out as well in this, and this is going to kind of tie in a little bit to the next topic that we had with regards to the new MLB ruling. I don't know if you guys heard what Charles Barkley, someone who is by himself very outspoken in general, had to say with regards to MLB's crackdown on the banned substances aspect of things. I don't know if you guys heard this. I want to give a shout out to Major League Baseball. Saw the new thing where if you catch pitchers cheating, you're going to suspend them for 10 days with pay. Way to stick it to those cheaters. That's a harsh damn punishment.
The bigger punishment. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, please.
No, the bigger punishment is for the teams, and they don't get to replace that roster spot while players are serving suspension.
Which is true 100%. But the idea that they're being suspended on an individual level with pay for a week and a half kind of negates the purpose of a personal suspension. It was kind of like when the times that I was like suspended for my job with pay. It's like, okay, so I'll sleep late and still get paid. You're not punished quite as much as a result because of that. Now, it's a collective bargaining thing. I think had a lot to do with it. But there's been a lot of issues and a lot of complaints around Major League Baseball with the fact that this happened literally in the middle of the season. Trevor Bauer, who is often very outspoken, was no less outspoken in this regard as well, because as he said, he had come forward with it for years, talking about what was going on with spin rate and with spider tack, and was summarily ignored until recently. Additionally, what was very interesting about it is he had come forward and said that Major League Baseball said they were not going to do anything during the regular season. And then lo and behold, bam, starting as of yesterday, suddenly, you got Jacob deGrom literally being, having the glove and the hat checked. I think his belt was checked, just in between innings. They're like, all right, we're going to do a spot check on you right now. And as a result, it was tough on the players because they had to adjust their entire style after a week. And if what Trevor Bauer said is true, then Major League Baseball walked back on their word. And that's a problem to me.
Well, the problem with Major League Baseball is that they always back up on their words. And, they are trying to make the game faster. They are trying to make the game fancier. They just forgot about the game. The game of baseball is not the game of baseball any longer. I mean, pitchers have been using substances for a century. And you come during the pandemic when there is no fans in the stands. You try to enforce a law. So, it's ludicrous. I mean, every single new rule happened during the pandemic. And if they want to get fans back on the stands after the pandemic is finished, I think this is not going to help it. Although deGrom is proving to be a one hell of a story.
0.5 ERA, I believe.
0.52. He's only 12 points to number the number 2 spot in Major League history. This is amazing.
And a full point below, I think, the second place guy right now, too.
Yeah.
That's insane as well. But
mean,
good.
You have one hell of a battle for the Cy Young Award in the room and Ohtani, and then you have also the MVP candidates. I mean, this is going to be an amazing battle, because I think in American League, particularly Ohtani goes against Vladimir Guerrero Jr. The groom,
your local fan, you're as a local fan favorite up there.
Well, I don't know if Buffalo is the perfect place, but
local is. I mean, it's an hour and a half.
But
hey,
actually, just to give you some more recent news, it seems Toronto will be playing in Toronto after all this season.
Yes.
in the month of August. So we'll see how that happens. But in the National League, if you look at it, I don't see a contender against the groom for both titles.
Sure.
He is the MVP and he is the Cy Young by far.
Yeah, the whole thing is it's most valuable player to your team. So he may not, in this case, it's a rare case where he has the best stats and ends up being the most valuable player. But with the Mets offense being as anemic as it is, they need him to play the way he's been playing.
And he's hitting too.
Yes. Does he lead the team in batting? He led the team in batting, batting average.
I believe he has more runs assisted either through hits, runs scored, and RBI than he does runs alone.
Right now.
7 was the last number that I heard for that. Where he had 7 runs scored plus RBI and 7 earned runs allowed the entire season. Before the start.
Here's the sick number. As sick as it is that he has a 0.5 ERA, what to me is more sick is he has a 0.51 WHIP, which means he is allowing one base every 2 innings. That is to me even more insane. And I mean, Kevin Gausman's second right now with a 1.51. Again, obviously nothing to dismiss this there. But if he's not hitting that way, if he's not pitching that way, that team is a 500 team. And it's kind of a shame because the Mets deserve better than that.
They also have had a lot of injuries early on this year, where they're essentially playing with their B lineup, and DeGrom has held them in first place so far. It also helps that the rest of the division can't get out of its own way. Atlanta's been very disappointing so far. Miami isn't doing much. The Phillies are a joke. So the Mets have been very very lucky in that regard. As far as Major League Baseball in general, with this crackdown, they do always go back on their word. You would think that after 150 years that they could figure out how to get a ball consistently and it's something every year. They're self-inflicted controversies. I mean, you had a team cheat their way to a World Series title and get away with it. They cheat the ball every year. First it's juiced too much, so then everybody's hitting home runs. Now it's going back the other way, and and because the controversy got too much, they decided to change stream mid-season. I mean, you had Tyler Glasnow for the Tampa Bay Rays blow his elbow out and blame and essentially he said because he had to quit using the sticky stuff cold turkey mid-season. Yeah, I mean
that's exactly what Bauer was talking about.
Yeah, I mean this shouldn't have been done mid-season. It's been a rule all along that they should have been enforcing, and a lot of it was because of the consistency of the baseball. It seems more like a billiard ball without using any of this stuff on it. So, is there a way to make the ball stickier? Where you don't need to use this stuff as much. I mean, not to try and change up the playing field, or they're saying, oh well, even rosin and sunscreen, which is now illegal. Rosin is the
you can't use sunscreen after sundown or something like that.
And everybody has sunscreen on playing outdoors. So how is that enforceable? I mean, for something like spider tack, or other, other substances, yes, that is overkill and they should go away, but they should have been enforcing this the whole season. And spider tack wasn't even made for baseball. I read an article this morning how it was made for strongman competitions. The big guys lifting up giant boulders. That's what the spider tack was made for. And the whole company is run by one guy and his partner working out of his garage in North Carolina.
And it's available on Amazon for $15.
Ever since Gary Cole was put on the spot about it.
Yeah,
they can't come out.
That was a phenomenal response to that question. I think as a Yankee fan, that was an embarrassment and a half right there. I'm sorry.
So
yeah, I mean, baseball.
Here comes my question: do we remove every single pitcher from the Hall of Fame because everyone used it?
You can't. Well, I mean, listen, how far do you take it also? Because keep in mind, if you're looking at possibly banned substances, Babe Ruth wore a cabbage leaf on his head every inning. I don't know if you guys knew this. When he played, because it was so hot, he used to actually literally take a leaf of cabbage and put it on his head and change it every 2 innings. Is that a banned substance? Are we looking at produce as a banned substance? And if so, do you take, Babe Ruth out of the Hall of Fame? It's like, where do you stop and where do you draw the line here?
Well, and just to keep on going on what MLB and their wonderful changes and controversies that they put on, and Scott, just to give you a notice, 3 weeks from today, we are going to have Robbie Alomar on exclusive here.
Nice.
On Spanglish.
Nice.
Because now
Junior, I'm assuming.
Huh?
Junior, I'm assuming, right?
So one of the things that has happened with Robbie Alomar is that the woman that accused him is saying now that it was exaggerated, so that there is not enough evidence to the whole 8-year investigation that the MLB did on the subject.
You know me well enough to know that I know that story firsthand, about what that kind of blackmail can do to a person. So let me know if you want me on as somebody who can relate to it at least a little bit. But that's a good grab. Props to you on that. I mean, he's a fixture. He's popular in Toronto still.
It's not, what the commissioner's office went a little bit too soon. If the case didn't get to the police, why would you accelerate the process to make this known without foundation?
Well,
and the commissioner's office should have dismissed a guy from work. Okay, tell him, you know what? Until this gets cleared up, let's keep it on the wraps. You step away from as an ambassador for the game for now. If he doesn't flourish into a criminal case, nothing happened. But if it does, we have to remove you from baseball as a whole.
Yeah,
but now you have the story in Toronto that they removed all his accolades from the stadium. They removed every single picture out of the stadium of Robbie Alomar, of all what he did. Thank God the Hall of Fame said, "You are stupid."
But
we are not going to remove Robbie Alomar on the Hall of Fame because he did what he did on the field. That had nothing to do with his personal life.
Well, we'll bring that one up in its own due time. But kudos to get him. That's something I want to talk to you about probably off air on that side. I will say for the record, this might be the most serious episode of this show we have ever done at this point. And I'm going to basically have to work this back a little bit. I'm going to backtrack this a little bit because this is meant to be a little bit of a lighter show here. So let's do that now. As always, this is the Sports Den. It is available on Twitter at SSW Sports Den and also in Spanglish World Sports Den on Facebook and also on Instagram as well. We got about 20 minutes left. I'm a little behind schedule right now, but we got enough time to make this one work. It is time for the obscure sport. So, Rebecca, if you could be awesome and pull that. There we go. Celebrate the beginning of Ramadan. This is a celebratory part of it. The sport is going to be coming. You'll know in a minute. So. Have you ever looked at soccer and thought to yourself, it needs more fire? Because if you have, this is for you.
Oh. Damn. Do you?
Is there a net?
Oh yeah. It's the same. It's soccer rules, but they took a hollow out coconut, lit it in kerosene, and play soccer with it. You can see. It's been around a while. This is in Indonesia. I should mention also. So this particular sport is very popular to celebrate the beginning of Ramadan. Supposedly they don't get burned that badly. A prayer is done at time to ensure that they don't actually get hurt. But again, it's a coconut that's literally set on fire with kerosene. This is by the way, the name of the bola api, or literally fireball soccer. Video credit goes to Trans World Sport that I pulled down from credits to you guys. And as you can see, it's a popular sport over there. All right, that's going to wrap that up. Like I said, this was fireball soccer. Because when you think about soccer, and obviously in my case, I'm fortunate enough to cover soccer on a regular basis, I have never seen them take the soccer ball and say, you know what, let's douse it in lighter fluid and kick it around barefoot. But we have that opportunity today. So what usually happens with this is we discuss this sport based on watchability, stupidity, playability, and in this case, I'm also going to add one more to the mix. I also want to include in there, so we got oddity, obscurity, playability, watchability, and I want to add into the mix badassery, because we need to add that one into the mix on this one first off. So from an oddity standpoint, I'm going to start this off. I'm giving this thing a straight A. I have never seen flaming soccer ball soccer before. I think this is a cool as heck thing. The way it lit up, I think in darkness is really kind of a cool idea. So I'm giving this thing, like I said, an oddity on that of an A. Obscurity or stupidity, I'm giving it an A minus. I think it's pretty weird, but supposedly they do a lot of work ahead of time to ensure that there's no massive injuries. I'm taking their word for it because, again, it is barefoot and you're kicking an object on fire. But that part aside, the fact that they do pray to the success and the safety of the players is the only reason I'm not giving this thing a full A. Playability, F. I like my feet. I like my feet not being burned. And while I was raised in a lot of like the southern areas of Virginia where I used to walk around on concrete, dirt, and ticks in bare feet, and I'm used to that, I do draw the line when it comes to first, second, and third degree burns. So this one for me personally is getting a straight up F on that. Watchability, I'm giving it a B+. I think this is one of those things that you just never really knew existed, and you can sit there and be really impressed and marvel at the fact that these guys are able to just kick this thing around more or less with no injury, pure dedication. Throw in, you got the goalie sitting there catching and throwing the ball, or coconut in this case here. So I'm giving that thing an A- as a watchability, and a badassery. Since I'm adding that one to the list now, I'm giving that one a full out A, because you got to have some serious huevos to be able to play a sport like that. JD,
this reminds me of NBA Jam back in the day. He's on fire.
Wild shot.
The ball catches fire in the game. They're taking it literally in this case. Oddity, I'll give that an A, because hey, some sports could use a bit more fire. I mean, baseball might be a bit more watchable if it was on fire. Obscurity, A-. Stupidity, a B. Playability, I'll give it a D, because I'm again, not into getting second, third degree burns on my feet.
Fair.
Watchability is an A-. Badassery A+.
Okay.
I
I thought about this morning, and I'm like, you know what? We need a badassery category. I feel like I've missed too many with all the other stuff we've done so far that we never had that category. So going forward, I'm adding that. Obie, Rob, if you guys are watching it, we're adding that for next week. Anyway, I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah, but that's while I will certainly never do it, but it definitely looks like it's fun to watch.
Sure.
For a bit. And and also, even if you are watching it in person, you have a risk of actual fireball, coming into the crowd. Definitely can't be on your phone and not paying attention in this game.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in this particular sport, there's no headers. A soccer ball can bounce off your head, but a coconut, inflamed or not inflamed, actually does not do your melon a lot of good when it bounces off the shot. But again, they seem to have a lot of fun with it. They seem to really enjoy it. Obviously, like I said, it does celebrate the beginning of Ramadan, so respect to that. You saw that there was a huge festival involved with the flaming torches. I want to give a shout out also to the firework guy or the sparkler. He sat there and just held them out like this. No fear, no anxiety. Just, you know what? These things are just going to go off in my hand, and I'm going to be cool with it. So respect and shout out.
I've also seen videos of
Eduardo, any thoughts on?
Yeah, so
soccer.
Badassness, definitely an A+. Was really a badass sport. I have to say that. I didn't realize it was a coconut. Obscurity, well, probably an A- in obscurity. Playability, hey, I give it a C. I wouldn't. I try to try any sport that looks fun. And if I get burnt, a couple days of work doesn't mind.
Exactly. You'll make more skin. It's fine. You burn some of that off and you can make some new skin, right? All right. Well, listen, respect on that. But yeah, like I said, for me, I like my Tootsies not to actually be toasty. So
the only guy that I feel sorry for is the goalie, man.
Yes.
That goalie that went tried actually go down. I was smelling smoke coming from the underneath. No, you ain't going to catch me being the goalie on that game.
I was going to say, yeah, it's one thing to actually basically burn the toes, but in this case, he's got the chest, he's got the shirt, he's got the arms. Again, try to avoid taking a coconut off the face. So again, respect to Indonesia. That's pretty badass. Or credit to that. All right, so we got about 10 minutes left at this point. We got enough time at this point to go into and to cover the last topic, I think, of discussion here. I want to talk a little bit of NBA playoffs. Here in the New York area, both the Knicks and also the Nets are out. The Nets losing in a thrilling Game 7 fashion at home, 115-111, to a team that surprisingly may actually go to the finals at this point. I'm not sure if people actually expected it was going to happen, but Bucks in Atlanta on the East and Phoenix and the Clippers in the West. JD, Eduardo, do you have any thoughts, any ideas, any predictions?
Yep, definitely. But JD, go ahead.
I love seeing some new blood in the conference finals. I mean, the Clippers have never even been to conference finals before, let alone the NBA finals. Last time the Hawks got this far, was they've never made the Eastern Conference Finals because the last time they got that far was before the NBA had conferences. They last won a championship as the St. Louis Hawks in 1958.
Jeez,
I believe. The Bucks haven't won since 1971. With Kareem, Lou Alcindor back then. That's how long ago it was.
He led leading scoring. Yeah.
Yeah, and then then the Suns have just been to the finals twice in their history and never won a championship. So, and this will be the first NBA finals without LeBron, Steph Curry, or Kobe since 2006.
Wow, really? 15 years. But he will save the Looney Tunes though, so we got to give him that. LeBron's going to save the Looney Tunes. So, Eduardo, you anything?
Yeah, I mean, if I was the Milwaukee Bucks, I would be very careful how you play and how you underestimate the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are coming with, and they have a traveling group of people. I don't know if you guys noticed. Hawkins was there. Bugsy Bogues is traveling with a team.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an amazing following of all the players that from the olden days are traveling with the Atlanta Hawks and to see what they can do. But one of the things that I want to the Brooklyn Nets deserve a tip of the hat, because they made it where no one in one season where no one expected them to go. And the only default there and wrong decision by the GM of that team was bringing good old beardy guy
Harden.
to the team.
Yeah.
Harden did not show up during the season, and nonetheless, like always, he never shows up in the playoffs. So I think that this will be the last time that we see Harden in any team.
You think he's going to retire after this?
No, I think he's going to get fired after this.
I think he can still latch on to something there, but it was a very surprising trade when they got him. I remember we were talking about this at that point. We didn't actually see it coming, but it's going to be interesting to see, because here in the New Jersey, New York area, it's a bizarre circumstance to actually have two NBA teams in the playoff in the same year. You know, it's always been one or the other, usually the Nets. So there was a certain level of excitement here to actually see both the, now we'll call them New York teams, in the playoffs, you know, and obviously in this case, ousted by better teams that I think nobody was prepared for.
Go ahead, Jay.
So with the Nets, there was maybe a total of about 13 games, including the playoffs, where Kyrie, Harden, and Durant actually were all healthy and playing at the same time. You know, if that, I think it was 9 regular season games plus a few playoff games before Kyrie and Harden got hurt. And big props to Kevin Durant stepping up big time. If he actually wore the correct size shoes and not size too big, then we're talking about a miracle, about one of the all-time buzzer beaters in league history. But since and this is actually true, he does wear shoes a size too big. So his foot was on the line. It was only a 2 and not a 3, and it was just overtime instead of a game winner, you know, where the Nets went on to lose in overtime. And just personally for me, with the Nets trading for Harden the way they did, it was almost like they were running things like a fantasy team. You know, so just, you know, as a basketball fan, the super teams just don't appeal to me. You know, where players can just get together. I mean, yes, it's their right to do so, but just as a fan, it's not really enjoyable to me. You know, and Harden, you know, as Eduardo said, has never stepped up to do anything in the playoffs. Selfish ISO ball works in the regular season, but not in the playoffs when you're playing against teams that actually play defense.
No, and one of the things that people keep forgetting about Harden is that now you can really see the value of Westbrook as a player, because at least Westbrook, when it counts, he's there. His legacy will go into the hall because he has individual achievements that are superb, which Harden doesn't have. Harden will never get to the hall because he has never been to the last end of the game, he has never achieved anything in the playoffs, and his achievements during the season are because of collaboration with other players. So he cannot say that he is one of the best in the NBA anymore.
Well, it's interesting because I'm just reading an article here on the Post as we're talking about this. The Nets do plan to actually bring back Durant, Harden, and Kyrie Irving. They're going to open up the wallets on this one. Big time. They're going to open up the checkbooks on this one. And from what I'm looking at here, James Harden, they're theorizing could re-up for 3 years, 161. So $50 million a year. Kyrie Irving, 4 years, 181. And then Durant, 4 years, 197. That is a lot of dinero right there for three guys there.
It would be the biggest luxury tax hit in league history.
Assuming that it actually happens, which let's assume it probably won't, but it at least shows that they're willing to open up the checkbook to keep Harden with the team.
You still, I don't see. I mean, they will try, but they're shooting themselves in the foot. You still have 9 other roster spots.
Oh, yeah.
Granted, the Lakers won a championship last year with LeBron, Anthony Davis, and 10 scrubs, but so it is possible. But there's a lot of moving parts here. When they can't even stay on the floor at the same time, that's a lot of money to put into players who are never all healthy.
Oh yeah, and that's good. That could hurt him. Go ahead.
I'll tell you one thing. I'd rather have DeMar DeRozan line up with Kyrie Irving and out there than to have Harden.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing. It's going to be an interesting offseason over here, like I said, especially if they open up, literally $150 million a year for the three of them, which, again, like you said, it's a team aspect of it. So that's a lot of money to be dropped. We do have to wrap this up. This has been a quick hour, and thank you guys for it. This is, like I said, is the Sports Den. It is available on Twitter at SSW Sports Den, and you can find us on Twitter, on Facebook, and also Instagram at Spanglish World Sports Den. Especially check them out because the videos that I post up there are relevant, timely, and usually, from what I've been hearing on a regular basis, humorous. Eduardo, probably know how to get in contact with you. You kind of run this network, so find you at Spanglish Sports Den. JD Walker, how can people get in touch with you, sir?
I'll make an Instagram and I'll let you know.
That'll work too.
Yeah.
JD Walker, of course, being your handle when you were in the radio days. You and I were talking before about that, so you'll be JD Walker, and I will revert back to Scottivarius, which was my old title way back about 2-3 years ago that I'm kind of embarrassed I still have now. But anyway, that's going to do it for us. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. This show is available on 35+ different platforms across 4 different continents. It is not available in Antarctica yet, but we're working on that. We're going to make it happen. We're going to set up some kind of a remote broadcast from down in Antarctica just to say that we did it. It is on my hit list legitimately. But for me, I'm Scott Churchson, Mr. Eduardo Harari, and Mr. JD Walker. This has been the Sports Den on Spanglish Sports World. You can find us on Zingo TV, channel 249 and 250, Spanglish Sports World, Spanglish World Network on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, CompuServe. I don't know. We'll pick one of the things that we got out there. Thanks as always for tuning in. What's that? Telegram. Telegram, smoke signals. I don't know what else is left there. Some kind of a BBS. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Take care and be awesome.